Buckingham Palace has announced the death of His Royal Highness Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, at the age of 99. Prince Philip was by far the longest-serving consort in British history, a role he shaped right from the start. He was 26 when he married the then Princess Elizabeth in 1947. Within 5 years, she would be Queen.
He has quite simply been my strength and stay all these years. And I and his whole family, and this and many other countries, owe him a debt greater than he would ever claim, or we shall ever know.
Tributes to the Duke and messages of condolence to the Queen have been sent from leaders around the world, including here in the UK.
We mourn today with Her Majesty the Queen. We offer our condolences to her and to all her family. And we give thanks as a nation and a kingdom for the extraordinary life and work of Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh.
In recent years, there had been signs that Prince Philip's health was declining. He'd been admitted to hospital a number of times throughout the last decade. He recently returned home to Windsor on the 16th of March after a month-long hospital stay. His loss will be felt most keenly by the Queen, his family, and beyond. People have been laying flowers outside the gates of Windsor Castle, where the Duke passed away peacefully this morning. And the flag is flying at half-mast at Buckingham Palace. Well, if you are just joining us, we are broadcasting a special programme following the death of the Duke of Edinburgh. In a statement, Buckingham Palace said, "It is with deep sorrow that Her Majesty the Queen announces the death of her beloved husband, His Royal Highness the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. His Royal Highness passed away peacefully this morning at Windsor Castle. Further announcements will be made in due course. The royal family joins with people around the world in mourning his loss." Well, we can speak now to our royal correspondent, Sarah Campbell, who's outside Buckingham Palace for us. And Sarah, when we spoke a little earlier, you said that people were coming down to Buckingham Palace to express their sadness and lay flowers.
That's right, Rita, and what's interesting is that there's a real mix of ages when you walk amongst the crowd. So there are young people. One girl told me she'd come down because her grandma had wronged her in tears when she heard the news, and she wanted her granddaughter to go and lay a tribute or just be here. Other people saying they just wanted to come down to Buckingham Palace. Buckingham Palace, of course, the London home of the royal family, the building perhaps around the world most associated with Prince Philip and the Queen, so understandable that people would want to come here. There was an announcement posted on the railings of Buckingham Palace, but normally that announcement of the death would have been left up for around 24 hours, but it was taken down within an hour because there is a real concern that whilst the royal family understand that people will want to mourn and reflect on Prince Philip's life and death, what they don't want to happen is for crowds to gather. So actually at Buckingham Palace there, people are being moved on, so they are laying tributes, they are standing there, but they're not being allowed to stand there for very long. But I guess wanting to come down and remember all the times that they would have seen Prince Philip on the balcony there of Buckingham Palace, thousands of people he would have spoken to in the grounds of Buckingham Palace for one of the garden parties that are held every year. And indeed, his very final solo engagement. He did 22,000 solo engagements over a life that was dedicated to service and public duty. That was here in August of 2017. It was a Captain General's parade. He was sort of saying goodbye as Captain General of the Royal Marines. They played for He's a Jolly Good Fellow. He left the forecourt, it was chucking it down with rain, and he had a little sort of tear in the corner of his eye. It was a real seminal moment, a very moving moment, because it really was the end of a life of public service. And since then, really, we haven't seen much of Prince Philip in public life. He did retire. He said himself he thought he'd done his bit, which can't be any exaggeration. And so he spent much of the last few years on a cottage at Sandringham until, of course, last March with the pandemic, when he relocated to Windsor Castle and spent really the last year almost solely with the Queen of Windsor Castle in their own sort of little bubble. And so perhaps, hopefully today, it's some comfort to the Queen to know that they did spend 12 months together. It would prove to be the final 12 months of Prince Philip's life, and hopefully that's some comfort. And I'm sure they spent many hours talking and reflecting on what an extraordinary life they've both lived.
And Sarah, I know that you've spent some time talking to people who have come to lay flowers. What have people been saying to you?
As I say, I mean, there's a sense of sadness amongst the crowd. A young boy, I said that there was a real mix of ages, and it's really interesting. One young lad said it was an end of an era, that Prince Philip represented sort of an end of a generation, which is quite interesting. I asked another 15-year-old what Prince Philip meant to him, and he said, well, he's just really famous. His mum, who was there, said he'll just be really missed. And then grandmother said overwhelmingly that we're just thinking about the Queen and the loss that she has suffered. I mean, remember, they were married for 73 years, longer than most of us have been alive. And so thoughts, I'm sure, will be with her, having lost her partner for life, and somebody who she has talked about as being her strength and her stay, and certainly the one who has been the rock throughout her role as Queen, which, you know, is a unique role, potentially a very lonely role, but was made much less so by the constant presence of her husband.
Sarah, we should say that viewers were just seeing there the sign, the announcement that was put up on the gates announcing the Duke of Edinburgh's death, but that has now been taken down. I think you mentioned earlier, in order to discourage people from staying and reading and being in crowds.
Absolutely right. I mean, we are in the middle of a pandemic. I mean, there are people behind me, some people who, it's the Easter holidays, of course, schools are off, so people might have been here anyway. But yes, those announcements of any big royal event, important royal national event, will be posted on the railings of Buckingham Palace, and normally it would have stayed there for much longer, but there is a real desire, a real understanding that they don't want to have anything which might attract crowds of people, because it's, you know, it's simply not safe at the moment. And so I think that is going to be a consideration, very much a consideration for the authorities as we go through the next few days, is working out how best such an important life in the history of this country, how Prince Philip's life can be celebrated and mourned, but in a way which, of course, has to respect the restrictions of the pandemic. So, as I say, people are coming today. They were reading the notice, but they were being asked to queue and then to read it and then move on. And now people, when they come and lay flowers, they are being asked to move on.
Sarah, thank you very much. That's our royal correspondent, Sarah Campbell, there live outside Buckingham Palace. We can go to Windsor now.
Okay then, hello to everybody in YouTube world. Yeah, it's only me, Patrick Gleeson here from Pat's Pad, and I thank you very much for tolerating my silence. Only it's not about me today, it's about the great man himself, Prince Philip. Yeah, this is my silent tribute to him, and you know, and the TV footage as well from BBC. Yes, the great man himself. I don't know where to start, I don't know where to finish. I don't know how long I got to explain it, but yes, he's a great contributor to society from a royal position. Only 2 months shy of his 100th birthday, and the Queen, the great lady herself, who he served alongside, it'll be her 95th birthday in 12 days' time. And then, of course, there's the coronavirus that we all have to live with. These are quite critical times, but I'm hoping the royal family will be strong and get over it. And, well, heaven awaits a great man. yeah, you can see the programs on television wherever you are in our wonderful world, and know what the great history of this man has got. As I said, today it's not about me. That's why I was silent for X amount of minutes, so you can hear the reports on the television itself, and I've got the subtitles on so you can read what the people are saying, because I put these people on silent. As I say, don't know what else to say. Great man himself. Yes, we've all got to go at some time, but we just got to try and look back on the great life he had, the wonderful character he was, great contributor, great loyalty, great initiator. Man who's very witty, is somewhat rude at times, but yeah, he was very complex, one of the most complex people on the planet. So that's it for now. Yeah, I will talk to you later sometime. Thank you for watching, and rest in peace, Prince Philip.